Hi everybody, it's Dave. 1 year ago, I uploaded my first video on this channel, and I had no idea if anyone would watch. You did, and you kept coming back. That means everything to me. I've got some incredible stories lined up that I can't wait to share with you. Thanks for being here. Stick around. The best is still ahead. Picture this. You're going through a family member's things. Could be after they passed, could be while helping them move, could be cleaning out an attic you've been avoiding for years, and you find something. Maybe it's a uniform, still folded, still carrying the faint smell of old fabric and time. Maybe it's a stack of letters tied with twine. Maybe it's a shadow box on a wall that nobody ever really talked about. Ribbons and medals and a photograph of someone much younger than you ever knew them. And you realize you didn't actually know what they did. You knew they served, you knew the branch, maybe the rough years, but the details, where they went, what unit, what they saw, that you don't know. If that's you, this video is for you. Because those records exist, most of them anyway, and getting them is easier than you think, and completely free. I'm going to walk you through exactly how to do it, what to expect, and what it might mean for your family. I'm Dave. Let's get into it. Before I show you how to find military records, I need to tell you about one night in 1973, because it might change your expectations and your strategy. Just after midnight on July 12th of that year, somebody reported a fire at a large building on Page Boulevard in St. Louis, Missouri. Firefighters from more than 40 departments responded. They arrived fast, 4 minutes and 20 seconds after the first alarm. But when they got to the 6th floor, where the fire had taken hold, the heat was so intense that their masks began melting to their faces. They had no choice but to pull back. The building burned for 22 hours. When it was finally out, the cause was still unknown. It still is today. And what was inside that building, what burned, what was drowned by the water they poured in through broken windows, was left to mold in the aftermath, was irreplaceable. That building was the National Personnel Records Center, run by the National Archives, and it held the military service files of every man and woman who had served in the U.S. Armed Forces. Somewhere between 16 and 18 million individual records. Firefighters and archivists were so desperate to salvage what they could that a local company called McDonnell Douglas brought a freight car to the tracks behind the facility and began freeze-drying water-damaged documents to stop the mold. Even with that, the 6th floor was a total loss. When the smoke cleared and the accounting began, the numbers were staggering. 80% of Army personnel records covering discharges from 1912 through 1960. 75% of Air Force records from 1947 through 1964. Gone. No duplicates had ever been made. No microfilm backups. No indexes. Just ash and ruin. Now here's the critical thing to understand. Navy, Marine Corps, and Coast Guard records were stored in a different location. They were not affected. If your relative served in one of those branches, you're in good shape. Their records are intact. But if they were Army or Army Air Force or Air Force, and they served before the mid-1960s, there's a real chance their file is partially or completely gone. That doesn't mean you're out of luck. It means you need to know how the reconstruction process works, and I'll walk you through that. The National Archives never gave up. There's still a team working today, using everything from morning reports to payroll records to unit orders, piecing together service histories from whatever survived. It takes longer, sometimes months, but it's possible. So why does this matter? Because when you go looking for a World War II veteran's records or someone who served in Korea, you need to go in with realistic expectations. Not defeated ones, realistic ones. The system can still help you. It just helps differently depending on the era. Let me lay out what's actually available, because not all military records are the same. The most important document in a veteran's file is the DD-214. That's the Certificate of Release or Discharge from Active Duty, the master key. It records dates of service, branch, rank at discharge, decorations and awards earned, the type of discharge, and the reason for separation. If you're trying to access VA benefits, get a burial flag, or apply for any survivor benefits, this is the document you need. One critical tip right here, always request what's called the undeleted copy of the DD-214. There's a deleted version too, which blacks out sensitive information like the separation code and re-entry eligibility. The undeleted copy has everything. Get that one. Beyond the DD-214, there's the official military personnel file, the OMPF. This is the full picture: assignment history, performance evaluations, commendations, any disciplinary records. If your relative received a medal, the citation may be in there. If they had a distinguished career, the depth of it lives in the OMPF. Medical and treatment records are a separate category and go through a different request path, which I'll mention in a moment. If your family is dealing with a health issue that may be connected to military service, chemical exposure, burn pits, radiation, those medical records are the foundation of any VA claim. Here's something that will open doors for researchers: the 62-year rule. Once 62 years has passed since a veteran's separation from the military, their records become public. That means anyone can request them, not just a veteran or their immediate family. If you're researching a great uncle who served in World War II or Korea, you likely have full access right now. You don't need to prove next of kin status. You just submit the request. And if the record you're looking for was affected by the 1973 fire, don't give up. Flag it in your request. The archives team will dig through what are called auxiliary reports: morning reports, payroll documents, orders, unit rosters, and build a reconstruction of the service history. It's slower, sometimes much slower, but it's real information. Alright, here's exactly how to do this. There's going to be many links that I'm going to talk about. They're all going to be in the description, so look there when I mention one. The main tool is a system called eVetRecs, and you'll find it at the National Archives website. It's free, it's online, and for most requests, it's the fastest option. You'll need to sign on using an ID.me account, which is the identity verification system the government uses. If you don't have one, it takes about 10 minutes to set up. It's free, it's easy. The archives may also ask you to take a quick selfie photo through your phone as an added verification step. Once you're in, you fill out the request form with whatever information you have. The more you can provide, the better. The full name as used during service is essential. A social security number or service number is very helpful. Branch of service and dates of service round it out. Date and place of birth can fill in the gaps if you don't have the service number. For a straightforward separation document, the DD-214, the archives processes about 92% of requests within 10 days. That's genuinely fast for a government records request. More complex requests, especially anything touching the 1973 fire, can take 6 months or longer. Plan for that. If you can't or don't want to use the online system, there's also Standard Form 180, the SF-180. You download it, fill it out, and mail it to the NPRC. The address is right on the form. Some veterans advocates actually prefer this method, saying they get more complete records through the mail request than through the online system. Both options are legitimate. It just depends on your situation. If the veteran is recently separated, especially after the early 1990s, there's a third option called milConnect. That's the Department of Defense system for active duty, reserve, and Guard members, and for recent veterans. Now, about next of kin. If the veteran is deceased, you can request their records as next of kin. The definition is specific: unremarried widow or widower, son, daughter, father, mother, brother, or sister. You'll need to provide proof of death, a death certificate, a funeral home letter, or a published obituary, along with your signed request. All requests must be signed. Online requests satisfy this through the ID.me verification. Mail requests need a handwritten signature. For medical records specifically, there's a separate form, NA Form 13042, for inpatient service records not included in the personnel file. If you need those, request them separately. And if there is a genuine emergency, an upcoming funeral, a burial benefit deadline, a medical situation, you can flag the request as urgent. In the eVetRecs system, there's an emergency request option in the form. For mail, you note it in the purpose section. One last thing about the fire. If you believe the record you're looking for may have been affected, Army discharge before 1960, Air Force before 1964, flag that in your request. Don't assume it's hopeless, just flag it and let the reconstruction team do what they do. Few things I want you to know before you start. First and most important, this is free. The National Archives does not charge you to request military records. There's no fee, none. And yet there are private companies out there, you've probably seen their ads, charging you $79, $89, $99, sometimes more to retrieve a DD-214 for you. These companies are not authorized by the archives. They're not certified. They're not faster in any meaningful way. A congressional investigation in 2022 found that some of these operations were marking requests as emergencies when they weren't, deliberately cutting in front of everyone else's legitimate requests and making the backlog worse for real veterans with real emergencies. Don't use them. You don't need them. Second, when you request the DD-214, always ask for the undeleted version. I mentioned this before, but it bears repeating. The deleted version blacks out information you might actually need, especially if you're filing a VA claim. The undeleted copy is your right. Ask for it by name. Third, consider requesting the complete official military personnel file, not just the discharge document. If you're doing family history research, or if you're building a VA claim, the full file gives you the whole picture. Decorations, duty stations, evaluations, everything. Fourth, be patient. The NPRC processes thousands of requests every day, and while routine requests are usually handled quickly, anything complex takes time. The official guidance says don't send a follow-up before 90 days have passed. Doing it sooner can actually cause delays. It's free, and it's the government, so it's going to take some time. If you run into a wall, veteran service organizations are a real resource. The VFW, American Legion, DAV, and others have service officers who navigate this system all the time. They can help you figure out the right approach for a complicated case, especially one involving the fire or a records reconstruction. And if you want to do this in person, the National Archives maintains a research room in St. Louis where you can review archival records by appointment. The email address is listed in the description to arrange it. I want to close by talking about why this actually matters, because it goes beyond family history. For a lot of families, especially families of Vietnam veterans, Gulf War veterans, or anyone who served in certain overseas environments, the military record isn't just a piece of paper, it's evidence. It documents where someone served, what unit they were in, what dates they were at what location. And that documentation is sometimes the only way to connect the dots between a soldier's service and the health problems that followed them home. I've done deep dives into several of these issues on this channel, and if any of them apply to your family, I want to make sure you know they exist. Agent Orange. If your relative served in Vietnam or in certain other locations where the herbicide was used, the full story of what the VA knew and when they knew it is something every family should understand. That video is already on the channel. Project Shad. This one is less known, and it's part of the problem. From the 1960s through the 1970s, the U.S. military conducted classified tests on its own personnel. Tests involving chemical and biological agents, without their knowledge or full consent. If your relative served during that era and came home sick, that video may be relevant. The link is in the description. Gulf War Syndrome. Tens of thousands of Gulf War veterans returned home with a cluster of unexplained symptoms that the government spent years refusing to acknowledge. The full story of what happened and what it took to get any recognition is in that video. Burn pits. Open-air burn pits were used at military bases across Iraq, Afghanistan, and the broader region for years. The toxic smoke affected hundreds of thousands of veterans, many of whom are still fighting for recognition and benefits. I covered that story in full. It's in the description. In every one of these cases, the military record is the starting point. Unit designation, dates, locations. That's the thread that connects a veteran's service to what happened to their health. So if you're pulling on this thread for your family, if you're looking for answers about someone who served and came home changed, or sick, or who never quite talked about what they'd seen, the records are where you start. They're accessible, they're free, and they're yours to have. That uniform, those letters, that shadow box on the wall. Whoever put it there earned what's in it, and their story, the full story, the documented one, the one the government has been sitting on in a warehouse in St. Louis. That story belongs to your family. Go get it. The links to everything I've mentioned are in the description below. I'm Dave. Thanks for watching. If this kind of history matters to you, hit subscribe, drop a comment telling me what branch you or your family member served in, and I'll see you in the next one.
Oh, Dave.